Hi, my name is John McAllister, and welcome to the Setting Trick Podcast. All right, so I am incredibly excited about the burgeoning friendship I have with this extraordinary Bridge author, and her name is Susan Morse. You might have seen a couple of her articles in the Bridge Bulletin, and she's going to start out by sharing she's going to be reading aloud an article that she wrote about playing at the Nationals in Memphis. Susan, it's a pleasure to have you on the Setting Trick.
Really a pleasure, John. Been looking forward to this a whole lot. Not all of what occurs in this is completely accurate. We can go over what happened and what actually didn't happen afterwards. But I think you'll get the point as we go along. The article is called Good Evening, Memphis. You're sitting east-west under fluorescent lights in a windowless upstairs meeting room at the Memphis Convention Center, dressed in a wilted outfit unearthed from a mound of laundry at the foot of your hotel bed. The ACBL's complimentary array of tiny, sharp red golf tee type pencils has been rolled aside in order to shuffle this round's hands. The cards are as fresh as the pencils, clean and flexible, no expense spared for this NABC Plus event. You, on the other hand, are decidedly not fresh after 9 solid days of brutal collisions with the best of the best. You got your first dusting of platinum at this tournament, which has emboldened you to imagine you might belong here in the final session of the Jacoby Open Swiss. The truth is, you are nothing but fodder, a silver life master, playing against world champions. Your team is the one they all want to play for a likely blitz, a boost on the way to collecting yet another national title. Exhaustion kicked in several days ago during the Rockwell mixed pairs. Somehow you and your partner managed to qualify for the second day, which inspired you to stay up too late, reliving your brilliance, only to gloriously crash and burn the next night, idiotically using losing trick count to justify opening 2 clubs on this final hand, causing your partner, trusting and equally wasted partner, to pole vault himself into 6 no trump going down 6.
Time out. For the people that are just listening by audio, Susan is holding up a diagram that is King, Queen, 10, 5th of spades, no hearts, 2 little diamonds, and Ace, King, 10, 9, 6 of clubs.
It's a 4-loser hand. You just need to be in spades or clubs. So, yes, so my partner pole vaulted himself into 6 no trump, of course, going down 6, illustrating in front of 2 Grand Life Masters we happen to admire very much. This was John Dickinson, and our opponents were Joanne and Bob Glasson, who are from the Philadelphia area and good friends, illustrating an important lesson you were supposed to already know. There is now a cinder block where your battered brain used to be, thanks to the Rockwell, and another across your lower back, probably thanks to a hasty 4-mile power walk across the Mississippi River to Arkansas and back during an afternoon break. The aroma of hospitality bruschetta, as John would say. He's always correcting my pronunciations. There's a lot of pronunciation challenges in this article. Wafts in from the hallway outside. Your opponents have not yet turned up, but it's usually okay to shuffle unsupervised. Top players skip these formalities out of professional courtesy. They rarely compare scorecards after a session. They're probably all outside having a quick smoke. Seems like a lot of the pros are smokers, night owls, suited to a vampirish afternoon-evening schedule, avoiding the light of day, partying well past midnight and sleeping through morning. Your teammates will face Poles Jacek Kalita and Michal Nowozacki. You and your partner, Lisa, are waiting on the Dutch contingent, Shortbrink and Bas driver. This pair helped bring in the Bermuda Bowl home for the Netherlands in 2011. They now play for hire along with Poles and Jacek Pepsi Shoa on Joseph Blas's current dream team. The team has taken 2 national titles so far, including last year's Jacoby Swiss in Philly. Everything's totally fine. Pepsi's foursome for this round has a combined 69,000 master points. You and your teammates have 10,000. This will be so much fun. So you're shuffling away, trying to keep cool, when suddenly, like a surprise film effect, two grinning 30-something chaps lunge at your table from nowhere, uttering incoherent sneezing sounds, which you realize later must be their names. They're thrusting their hands at you, and because handshakes are not customary before bridge, you fail to go with it gracefully, gripping too tight, extracting a good-natured yelp from boss. These guys can't be smokers. They look like they just hopped off a sailboat, startlingly ruddy, blonde and fit, dressed in jeans and striped rugby shirts. They also seem way too goofy for bridge players until you glance into their pale eyes at just the right moment and catch the occasional flash of intelligence pulsing on, off, warnings from a distant lighthouse. It's just such a novelty to sit at a table with two cute young guys. Lisa's got her poker face on, but you know she has to be pinching herself like you. You pull out your hands, there's an efficient auction, and poof, you're a declarer and 3-no trump. This is also novel. Even when you and your partner have slam between you, somehow these experts manage to steal the contract. Now, their casual willingness to let you play gives slight pause. Boss leads a high heart. The dummy goes down. 4 small hearts and a decent amount of honors in the other 3 suits. With AX in hearts in hand, you count your tricks. Got 9 for sure, and as long as they don't get back in with those hearts, you might even get a club over trick at the end. You have Queen Jack XX on the board and Ace 10 XX in hand. Might be worth a try. You hold up your Doubleton Heart Ace on the first trick. Another is led, and you have to win it. And you're feeling a little tired. For some reason, the cards are sort of out of focus, so you adjust your reading glasses and you try to shake it off. Play a spade. They both follow, which means the spades are now all good, as well as the diamonds. And this is when things get funky. You're running spades and diamonds. The air in the meeting room is now hazy, like a fog. The fluorescent lights overhead have dimmed, and you could swear there's a full moon over your partner's head. Instead of last week's wilted laundry, you are now wearing a long, white, ruffled nightgown. You seem to have lost your shoes and socks. And the floor beneath is no longer industrial carpeting. It's cobblestones, slightly damp in the evening fog. That's okay, you tell yourself. Just keep running spades and diamonds and this will pass, even though sometimes you have cards in your hands and sometimes you're holding a bouquet of posies. Boss on your left discards a high club, which makes you think about that tempting, unnecessary finesse. There's still some hearts out, but surely not enough hearts to set your game contract, even if the finesse fails. Wonder what their discard system is. Upside down, says Short. He's not wearing his rugby shirt anymore. He's in a tux with a black cape and a high collar. His ruddy complexion has become pale, waxen, but he's still cute. And he must have the king of clubs. The finesse is on. So what's the harm? You lead the club queen from the board. Short pauses, and then he delicately takes a card from his hand. A drift of fog skims the table surface. The card, when he places it, snaps faintly against his long, unusually pointy fingernails. It's not the king. He's ducking. You could forget about the overtrick, play your ace and finish it off for game, but where's the fun in that? There are hardly any hearts left, and besides, the king is not on your left. You let the queen ride, and in a flurry like bats in the moonlight, Boss swoops in and takes you with his club king, and then the table turns red with a gush because there's a flood of hearts, and all your lovely winners are going, gone, and there's nothing you can do. You have no silver bullets. You have no time to lift the hem of your flimsy nightgown and run barefoot over slick cobblestones out in the hall for a slab of garlicky bruschetta to stuff in Short's mouth. No time to grab a sharp little golf pencil and drive it deep into Boss's wicked false carding heart. The thing is, if you'd only kept track of the hearts and just one last pun, maybe counted them like on Sesame Street, you'd have known this could happen. But the other thing is, if you keep letting these brilliant immortals feed on you like this, eventually it may be worth it because, as legend has it, someday, once they've squeezed you for all you have and there's nothing left, you will become one of them. So it wasn't Brink and Driver. It was another really fabulous pair who are super famous, whose names I can't remember, because we have no records of which, and that's the other thing is when I'm at these nationals, especially in the super duper leagues like that, I want to take pictures of the hand so that I can remember afterwards what happened better. My brain doesn't really hold on to those things. And so I've been sort of plotting ever since, through all we've missed a lot of nationals since then, but I've been thinking, what I have to do is if I really want to take a picture, I take the board up to the director and I say, would you please observe me taking a photograph of this? And I promise it's for the bulletin. I don't know. You think they would let me?
It seems like very tedious. Can you just write the cards down, like in your scorecard?
Yeah, that's what I have to do. That's my backup. Yeah. But, you get so excited when you're playing bridge, you don't think about how you have to do things like that.
I have a former partner that actually has a little journal that he carries with him, and he writes down every deal.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, if there's hand records, you don't have to do it. But in the Swiss, you have to shuffle. Did you make it to the finals of the Swiss?
Yeah, that was the finals.
Yeah, that's the finals.
The last day, it was Sunday. How does that work? I know that was a crazy tournament. I played in the women's pairs and the mixed and that one, and I got platinum in all three after having never made it to the second day in anything.
In all three.
I know, and I thought, oh, this is so easy. Oh, and I've hardly gotten any since then. That was really my best platinum haul, probably of my entire life.
So I have some questions about the story.
All right.
Did you really like the stuff with the nightgown and stuff? But I'm wondering, where did you come up with that?
Oh, you think that really happened, John? It was that hand. It really was that hand. I mean, I knew that there was something sort of, it had been adding up. I've been playing bridge. I've been going to nationals since Providence in 2014. That was my first national. Wow. It was the first week I joined the ACBL. And I've always managed to go to a couple a year since then. And the pros are fascinating, the experts, and seductive. They do smoke and stay up very late, in general, and sleep late in the morning. And so, there is something about them that is sort of like the undead among us, the immortals. And, and then there's the rest of us. It just was like, I have to write about this hand in particular because of what an idiot I was and how it felt. It really did feel like they were going to get me to do that. And I was just this little squirming mouse, just sitting there obliging. I'm really glad I was able to remember exactly what was in my hand and Lisa's hand. And I just remember thinking how stupid I am. And, we've been through this. I'm sure you go through it. It is a phenomenon of bridge where the devil gets into you and you just absolutely can't stop yourself from doing the stupidest thing imaginable. And every once in a while that pays off. But, there is no sense in it. There is absolutely no sense in putting yourself into a vulnerable situation like that against world-class players where you might not make your 3-note trump when you've got it. All I had to do was just take my last couple of tricks and I was fine. It was just very stupid.
Did you not have any more entries to the dummy? Is that why you took the finesse?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, I just was trying to get that extra club trick. That's all I was trying to do. Just wanted the extra club trick.
I thought the beginning was really the first line about the pencils, and then
the
line about the ball of laundry on the floor at the foot of your bed.
Yeah, well, that's what it is, isn't it?
I'm familiar with that laundry situation.
Yeah. I know, and the pencils, it's like, I never want those pencils. I know there are people that use them, but everybody's, I mean, there's so many of them. There's so many. Why do we need that many at the table?
So you first joined the ACBL the week that you played in a national event. That I would say that's pretty unusual.
Almost that same week. It was, I think I joined in October. Well, what happened was I was playing kitchen bridge with a couple of friends. Do you want to hear the whole bridge history? Okay, I start all the way back in the beginning because there's a, you know, everybody else gets to talk about when they were children and when they started playing. So I was introduced to bridge when I was about 12 or 11. And my sister, my older sister, she's 4 years older than me, Lila, would have friends over. And there was some guy that was one of her group of friends, these teenagers, that would come over to our house when my parents were out. And they would set up a bridge table and play bridge. And apparently this guy was super into it. So much of the time, they only had 3 players. And so they would make me come in and sit at the dummy seat and, you know, just kind of a body. I was a body at the table. And they didn't really take the time to teach me. I think they tried a little bit, but you know how it is. And so mostly I was just being the dummy. And I was sort of watching it all and thinking, this is really complicated. And I really don't understand what they're talking about. But they sure do. It certainly does matter a lot to them. And that was that. And didn't really think much about it. And then, you know, went through all my life of playing hearts, and just, I think I discovered hearts in college, and you know, would stay up all night playing hearts. And then I would go on these holidays with these another family when we had children, and they wanted to play hearts. And suddenly it turned out that we all were complete heart maniacs, and so we would stay up forever playing hearts. Every you know, get up in the morning, play hearts. We're in wonderful vacation land, and all I want to do is play hearts and do crossword puzzles with this friend of mine. And so she knew that I was hot for hearts. And when she and some other friends decided the thing to do was to learn bridge, they started making noises about it. And I think the idea was when people were too old to play tennis or paddle or whatever it was, that they were going to retire into bridge together and still have an excuse to get together. And they kept telling me that I was going to like it. And so when a friend had a big milestone birthday party, her husband organized a bridge lesson for her and her friends and all of their spouses. And it turned into a monstrous affair with a local luminary teacher, trying to figure out a way to, you know, all these people with their cocktails sitting in tables all scattered all over the house. And bridge did not come across well. The bidding was, I just kept thinking to myself, why don't we just tell each other what's in our hands? I mean, why do we all know what the code is. Why don't we just, what is the point of this? It's just silly and annoying. And so I was like, okay, I'm not a bridge player. But then the same friend who had been wanting to do it, somebody in their foursome that would play in the kitchen moved away. And she was positive. This is my friend from the Vacations with the Hearts. And she just knew I was going to love it. And she said, you have to come, you have to come. And I'm like, I'm writing. I was finishing my second book. And I'm like, I am definitely not going to learn bridge right now. And she said, well, just come, because you know what, you're writing a book about the empty nest. I write memoirs about things that people like me go through. And she said, why don't you come and find out what will happen with the empty nest and bridge? And, you know, even if you don't like doing it, you'll see what we're going to be doing. So I agreed to do that. Their way of learning bridge was to have an open book of this little spiral notebook that had bridge conventions in it. You know, if your partner bids this, your choices are this, you know, that kind of thing. And they kept it open book on the table, and then they would play and laugh and cheat and lie. And, you know, it was hysterically funny. And I started to think that the game was actually kind of fascinating. And it started to get frustrated with the lying and the open book and the cheating part of our thing. Even though it was terribly, terribly funny, I was like, I want to learn serious bridge. And occasionally somebody would come over, and that was Allison Shoemaker. It was one of the somebodies that came over that we were all like, oh, because she seemed to know so much, because she was playing duplicate at the country club. And we were all just like, oh. And so when I finished the book, I actually finished it up with a chapter about this bridge foursome, because I did realize that was going to be the next thing I was doing. And I said to Allison, okay, when this book is over, would you please introduce me to the world of duplicate? And she said, okay, so what you have to do is you have to join the ACBL, and you have to learn negative double, Jacobi 2 no trump, and feature ask over a week two, and that's it. And I'm like, okay. And so we drove to our first duplicate game at this place called Raffles in, about half hour from where we lived. And I was just like, oh my God. And I didn't know it, but it was a stack, and we scratched. And, this, I found out later, was kind of unusual because Allison, she'd been playing bridge for about, I think, 2 or 3 years, and she had 20 master points. I was so impressed. And I thought, I'll never get there. And sure, I got my first like half a point at this one game these people were very hard to play against. I know because they continued to be hard, even when I learned a little bit more about bridge. They were all pretty darn good. So then she said, all right, now we're going to, we went and played at this country club. And she introduced me to the director that was there, a man named Bill Bauer. And at that game, we came in first. And again, I'm like Allison said, she said, I played bridge for a year before I got even a tiny bit of master points. So this is unusual, whatever is happening here. And so, I just kind of kept playing. And then I decided that what I was going to do is the book was going to be about reaching a goal, this book that I was going to write about me playing bridge. And, I had friends who had been playing for a while, and they were like, you do realize that there are an awful lot of bridge books by really good bridge players out there. And I'm like, yeah, but this is there's that, and then there's this, and but what I needed was something to structure it around, and I decided that what I was going to do is have a goal about becoming a life master in a ridiculously short amount of time. I was going to try to do. I didn't know if there was a record for life master, but I wasn't sure I could actually beat a record. But I thought maybe I could do something that nobody thought I could do, that I was talking to. So the first person I asked was one of the nice country club ladies. I said, how long do you think it would take me to become a life master?
Yeah.
And we're talking this 500-point life master thing. She said, 10 years. And I'm like, God, I can't take 10 years to write a book. And I kept playing a little bit more. And we went to, Providence. We managed to get some red points in Providence. And Kibitz, Eric Greco, who I knew was from Philadelphia because his mother had been playing at Raffles. She was one of the people I would try to beat. And she said something about her son, and we found out that her son was a pro, which I was like, what's a pro? And, this is why. So then we had this fascination for Eric Greco, and we actually got somebody to let us tiptoe into the ballroom where he was playing and sit and watch him. And that was really fascinating for us. Of course, it was terrifying because we were so afraid we'd do something and get kicked out. But just watching those guys, how relaxed they were, how they didn't sort their hands, and how they just folded their hands, after like 2 or 3 cards were played, and everybody knew what the outcome was, and they'd all laugh, and one of them would say, King 10-4, and the other would go, and we're like, what? It was fascinating and so interesting. I was like, okay, I am totally hooked. And then we decided to go to this tournament in Bermuda where they give out trophies. We didn't know about the trophies, but halfway through the tournament, which was really fun, this regional, somehow we read in their bulletin that there was this trophy called the Longtail Trophy, and it was for the newcomer novice type player at the tournament who won the most master points. And we were only playing with each other. We were looking like we were going to win this trophy. And so I was like, okay, Allison likes to play golf. I said, Allison, could you please not play golf and play 3 sessions a day with me until the end of this week? Because it would be really good for my book if I ever write it, if we won this trophy. And so she did. And we played and we played and we played. And we played and we didn't even know, at the end of the week when you have Swiss teams, we didn't know what that was. We didn't know you had to plan. And we were like, oh my God, we don't have anybody to play with. We have to win the trophy. And there was this little tiny, tiny side game for dumbos like us in like this little tiny claustrophobic room in a corner of the Fairmont Princess or whatever the name of that hotel is there in Bermuda. It's a really fun tournament. So we played in that, and it was like, I don't know, 6 tables or something. It was terrible, just enough. And this is where I bid and made my first slam and got so excited that I literally jumped up, high-fived Allison, and ran around the room in the middle of the game. And, we'd gotten a lot of trouble. And when we were there again 2 years later, the guy that we got in trouble with remembered it. So, It's just absolutely dreadful. But anyway, we did get the long tail trophy. We shared it because we had exactly the same number of points in the tournament. And I decided the way things were going that I could probably pull this off. You know, I was still under 20 at that point, but it was looking good. Or maybe I'd passed 20 by then. I was under 20 when I started the year, 2015. But anyway, I decided I was going to give myself a 2-year. I was going to have to get to be life master in less than 2 years. So I'm trundling along, and the director from the country club that we had, the game we had won, was kind of watching. And one day he said to me, okay, so you are listed 6th in the country in a national mini McKinney race for people 5 to 20. And I think you could win it. And I'm like, okay. And he said, and I have never mentored anybody before, and I've been mentored by a lot of people. So I'm going to mentor you if you would like, and I will help you figure out how to win this tournament or race or whatever it was. And I'm like, okay. And having never had a coach or a mentor for anything, that turned into a, I think it was like 10 games a week, 10 local games a week, and as many regionals and things as I could get Allison to go to. And this guy, Bill Bauer, would make me these charts. He would look at where all the games that paid the most were, and he would tell, and he was like a taskmaster. He'd check online to see if I played where he told me to. And then he would email me and he would say, why weren't you at that game? You should have been at this game, not that game. And I would say, well, because the partner didn't want to drive 45 minutes. She wanted to drive 10 minutes. And, it went on and on like this. And it was exhausting. And every once in a while, he would play with me if I couldn't find anybody. And he was like, that was amazing to be able to play with. But most of the people that I was playing with were just people like Allison and like me, and maybe there were a couple of teachers that I started to play with who liked to teach beginners and didn't consider themselves to be super duper. I think one of them was a silver and the other one hadn't even made Life Master yet because she'd thrown away all her master points when she didn't realize that they were a thing back when she started playing as a young 20 person. So, it was a motley crew, and the point of it was just to play. And that's what we did. And Bill figured out there was this Chinese-ish type guy in Houston who was holding first place. And he was my target. He was the one.
2015.
There were a few others, but they all fell away towards the end. It was this guy.
Okay. This
was in 2015. And, I don't know how I know the names. He's listed as Ming Chur Tsai. And he's in Houston. He's no longer living, unfortunately. And I'm kind of sad about that because I would really love to have talked to him about what it was like and whether he even had any idea that he was in this race, because most people were like, what's a mini McKinney race? But, I was checking him maniacally, and Bill Bauer was literally stalking him, figuring out how many points he got before they'd even been reported to the ACBL and who his partners were. And apparently he had somebody sort of like the partner I had. One of my partners is silver, I think. And they would play at these club games in Houston, where the payoff is, we just didn't have any clubs that had payoffs like this. And so, he only had to play once a day. I had to play twice a day, almost every day, and Sunday. And it was like, exhausting. And suddenly in November, he was still like a few points ahead of me, and he stopped playing. And I'm like, what is he doing? And I just kept it up. And I kept it up. And he did come back in and he played a few games in December, but I inched ahead of him and I won my national mini McKinney race that year. I don't remember if it was a picture or my name in the bulletin, but it was terribly exciting. And I was continuing on with this Life Master chase. And luckily, it was such a relief to have the mini McKinney over so I could stop playing every day. And the Life Master thing happened on day 521 in Gatlinburg on a team of my homie girls who were all just right with me. And it was the most wonderful, exciting thing. And then I didn't have to play like a lunatic anymore. And that was a great relief. And I've stopped. I'm still playing, but I'm not quite as insane as I was back then.
So you made Life Master on the 525th day after you made the proclamation, 521st.
521st day. And that put me, I think Bill managed to he got in touch with somebody at the ACBL to see if there was any listing of who the fastest people were for after the 2010 change. And there was a list of the top 10. And I think at that year, I went into number 5 on that list. And I actually wrote down who was ahead of me. Lindsay Wenger in New York was in first place, and she had 371 days. Sylvia Shee was in second place with 395. John White was in fourth. He's from California.
I know Lindsay and Sylvia for sure.
And then Jared Bolds in Arizona was 507, and then there was me. And that's when I stopped doing anything particularly amazing.
I've read about maybe Sabina Auken. Like, I've read about European people who are like, already even world champions coming to the U.S.
And they have to figure out what master point assignment they should have.
Trying to become a life master in like a period of maybe even months. But that was probably before the 500 because none of those people are showing up on the list. But you were starting from scratch, basically.
Well, I remember had never played. Yeah, but like we had somebody. Do you know who May Sacker is? Okay, so when May just kind of surfaced in our unit, actually, she surfaced in these mini McKinney races. Suddenly, it was like, "Who's May Sacker?" Everybody was saying, "Who's May Sacker? Who's May Sacker?" Because she was playing in gold rushes and just winning the pants off of everybody, and top of her races, and they were all like, and the people who were competing in her races, I think they sort of blew the whistle on her and said, doesn't seem right, because somebody found a photograph of her surrounded by trophies in Europe, some article or something. It's this fabulous picture of her sort of rolling around on this table with these trophies. And they were like, this is not right. We want her out of our race. And they kept sort of trying to figure out what level they should put her at. And I don't remember what it finally was, but it wasn't Gold Rush level anymore, that's for sure. So I don't know. I think you just suddenly get master points if the ACBL realizes that you need to be put in your proper position.
It sounds like, what did mentoring with Bill mean besides monitoring the master points? Like, was he mentoring you as a player, like teaching you?
He did. Well, first he said, okay, what you need to do is you need to come into my beginner class, and it's halfway through, but you need to come in and sit in on it. So I did that, and I missed a lot of stuff, but I did do that. He was teaching Audrey Grant. And when he would play with me, he would sort of make notes. He was really, really, he knew just how to do it. He was really good at it. What he said is, I'm not going to talk to you at the table. We will talk afterwards, or I will send you an email. Just play and do the best you can. If you really need to ask me a question, you can, but let's do this away from the table, which I think is really...
I agree. I think that's smart.
It's really kind. So what Bill would do is, I think this is really, really good style for a mentor. I really do. He would, after a hand, he would make a note on his convention card. He would circle it and he'd write in a few pointed little things. And then I would get these emails, and what they weren't overwhelming. They were just enough so that I would learn the most important things from what I was doing wrong. It got so that when I was really exhausted towards the end of the Life Master Hall, we'd be sitting at the table and I would do something wrong and I'd know what I did. And then I'd see him getting out his pencil and I'd say, "Stop writing, I know what I did." Which I think was a little frightening for Bill, because he was literally coming out at night after dinner, leaving his wife, and it was so sweet of him. He's an incredible guy.
So what did you tell the woman who said 10 years? Did you go back to her and report 521 days?
Oh, well, by then that was, the country club. She's a really good friend. She's a great friend. She has been one of my greatest cheerleaders. She's just fabulous. Betsy Gemmel. Yeah, I don't even think she even remembers what she said.
I feel like when I've seen you recently playing, you haven't been playing with Allison. You've been playing with, I don't know who you were playing with. Also, I mean, I didn't know her.
Yeah, well, I think Allison and I both realized that we needed to learn, and that we were kind of groping around in the dark playing with each other. We are about to play together in the GNTs, and we have to get practicing because, and that's going to be really interesting. It's always interesting to check back in with her and see where we both are. But we do play with a lot of the same people. I kind of accumulated this amazing stable of people who teach beginner bridge. Bill Bauer is one, John Dickinson, who you've met, is another, and Lisa Mito, who you've met, is another. And Allison is always in that mix, playing with them. Deb Crisfield is another one. I met her in Bermuda, just as she was actually moving from New Jersey to Philadelphia to play at my country club. And she was a bridge teacher. Some of her students were there with her at that tournament and introduced us. And Allison talked me into asking her if she would play with me on the cricket club team, because they, the women in bridge players in various different country clubs in this area all compete with each other for a trophy. And so I did, this is one of the things that bridge has done for me. You may think, because I talk and I say funny things and crack a lot of jokes, that I'm totally adept socially, but I'm actually a very anxious socializer, and I would never dream of asking somebody to be my partner, for example, especially if they're a whole lot better than me. I mean, I would just sit in the corner and wait for them to notice me.
Yeah.
That's just how I do things. But this mentor said to me at the beginning of this, you are going to need a whole rotating list of players your level who will play with you, the good ones at your level. And you're just going to have to get them, because there's not going to be one person who can play with you as much as you need to play. So work on it. Here's your list of people that you need to get to be your partners. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to ask them. And I did, because, and this is what's fun about when you're writing, when you think, which I still haven't even started, you're writing a book about something, you have to stick your neck out, because it's for the sake of what you're doing. And so Bridge has brought me out of my a bit of a shell that I keep myself in, and that's a healthy, good thing.
How many points do you think you had when you won the Mini McKinney for the year, approximately?
Well, I could look it up, but I think it was like the year before I had started in October, so I had this teeny weeny little bit that just put me in the 5 to 20 category by the beginning of the year, and I think I had something like, if I go on here, I can actually get you the exact number. But I think it was 200 or 300 or something like that. And I think with Mini McKinney, they don't count your online points, but they count all your colored points, including your blacks, your silvers, your reds, and your golds. And then there's another race called the Ace of Clubs, which is only black points. And that one, my Chinese enemy won. He did win the Ace of Clubs. I couldn't beat him on that.
Where was your husband and all that?
Well, my husband is an actor, and so all of our marriage, we're 40 years this year, and we had children when we were married 6 years, and that's when he started doing an awful lot of traveling for work. During the baby raising years, I kind of quit everything I was doing. I had been an actress, and I stayed home with the kids, because he was always away, and I didn't want both of us to be doing that. He's a really steadfast, good guy. And when this came up, and I said, how do you feel about me traveling for Bridge, 8 times a year, say? He just said yes. He said it's okay, And he plays golf, and so we're going to the Hilton Head Regional.
Oh, I'm going to be there.
And you are?
I'm coming.
I never see you at regionals
for 3 days. Yeah. Adam Grossack is a good friend of mine. He's in the film. I met him through the film.
Yes.
And he called me up.
Yep.
And he gave me, the sales pitch. They had some client who was supposed to be splitting the week, and one of the clients had to back out. So it's a team of me, Mexstroth, Adam, and Zach, his brother Zach.
Oh my God! So wait, Mexstroth's your partner?
Yeah, for 3 days. Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, of the Hilton Head. But I'm going to be there the whole time, or from Monday through Saturday, and I don't have a partner or teammates as of this point. So I'm looking. Oh, well, then I can't team up with you.
Oh, really? Well, we have a team of 4. Well, maybe we can work you in. I don't know. Let me talk to them. Let me have a chat with them. I love that tournament. I've only been once. I'd heard about it a lot, and I went just the year before the pandemic, the year of the pandemic. That was the last one I went to, and I was like, this is a keeper. This is fantastic. And what's also nice about it is that they have a good golf course there, and I've talked David into coming and spending the first 2 days there.
I'm playing golf on Saturday before. That's kind of how it started, actually, was Michael Rimstead sent me a text on Facebook inviting me to play. We're going to play Harbortown, which is it's the course where they play the PGA Tour.
Is that a good course there?
The weekend after the Masters.
Oh, I've got to tell David that that's what maybe he already knows. I don't know.
I would imagine that he's aware of it. When are you guys going down?
This trip I've been, we had to squeeze this interview in today because leaving tomorrow. And what we're doing is we have a Sprinter van that we had outfitted during the pandemic. That's a Mercedes van that you can turn into a camper, a customized camper. So we've got this fantastic memory foam king-size bed and a full kitchen because David has a lot of food sensitivities, as do I, and sensitivities to air fresheners and things. And so I'd always said we need to get ourselves a good camper so that if we go somewhere and the hotel or the restaurants are unsafe for you, we have an alternative. And so that we did the Sprinter van. It took forever to build it and order it and everything because they were all backed up. But we're going to drive that thing. This is our second trip in it, from Philadelphia down through Atlanta, where we've got some kids, and
Oh my gosh.
down to the Florida Keys. And we're going to drive the Keys, spend a few days in the bottom with the Key West, I think, and then back up again. And then he's got to get ready for a play that takes place. It's set in the South, specifically Myrtle Beach and parts of Maryland and stuff. And so he's going to leave me at Hilton Head on the way back up and go off to Myrtle Beach and immerse himself in the accents and the atmosphere down there. So I'll be there for the entire.
Myrtle Beach is not a place that I think about as being a setting for a play.
I know. Well, this is the other side of Myrtle Beach, the non-fancy side, which he's done this before because the play actually was scheduled to happen and the pandemic stopped it. So he's already done this Myrtle Beach thing. And it was some kind of really interesting area that he was in that is not where the tourists go.
I've been to Myrtle Beach a couple of times for Beach Week when I was in high school.
My daughter did that. My daughter went to University of Richmond, so that was where they would go. I think that's where they went. They were kind of a tough scene there, Beach Week, as it was described to me.
What else did I want to ask you?
You wanted to ask about my experiences with Mexstroth.
Yeah. Tell me about.
Now that I know that I'm going to have to talk to him, I'm going to be a little nervous telling you about my experiences with Mexstroth because I was sort of hoping that he would never hear this because he's such a great guy.
He is a great guy.
He really
is.
is.
A teddy bear. He's a little.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what he is.
But he's a teddy bear. When he calls me Captain Kirk.
And a killer.
That's his nickname for me. We played in this.
How cute!
Online money game for a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic. And he said he came up with nicknames for everybody. Adam Grossack was the Shock, and then I was Captain Kirk because I go where no man has gone before.
Oh, really? And why is that, John?
Like just in complete outer space on some of the bids that I make. So he calls me Captain.
Oh, that is really funny. That's really funny. I have a Grand Life Master who calls me Hearts. And I actually wrote an article about why. And someday you'll see it.
I was going to wonder, do you think you were like preternaturally talented for bridge because of all the hearts you played?
Well, it was only a very intense period of about 4 years on spring break that I managed to play all those hearts and a little bit in college.
You were good at bridge from the start. Like you scored, you won master points your first time playing. Like, to what do you attribute?
Yeah. Well, I was just saying this to David last night. I guess what we're talking about with me, possibly, is that I would have been one of those people who, if I had somebody, a parent in the home that was playing all the time and taught me bridge when I was in that absorbent mind age, when you're really good at learning those things, that Montessori theory and I know people say that you can't really become a top level bridge player if you didn't start when you were little, sort of like being a top level musician, concert level musician. You need to have been playing all your life. You need to get the basics in and I didn't do that. But I think if I had, maybe I would now be one of those immortals walking amongst us. I don't think I can ever become one of the immortals.
Now, Susan, I don't want you to use this as an excuse to keep you from reaching your potential as a bridge, because that sounds like a very baked-in excuse right there, young lady.
Oh, well, it's more like I have to fight that fear that I can't. I have the hope, sure. I mean, my friend Lisa, my partner Lisa, I remember one time she said to me, she's the one that forgot to lodge all her master points, and she teaches beginners, and she's super good. And she'll be playing with me. Is she my partner? Yeah, she'll be my partner in Hilton Head. And she was my partner in this story. She tends to put herself down and say things. She made some joke about never becoming a Grand Life Master. I know. Are you a parlor of positive thinking person?
No, but I mean, I'm familiar with it myself.
I know. Well,
yeah,
she
of
likes
course
to.
of course, I wish I would have played bridge from
Right. Well, there's self-deprecating humor, but I detected that she really didn't think she was going to ever get there. And so I took her aside, first chance I got. I said, I don't want you to ever say that again, because if you can't get there, I can't get there. And I want us both to get there. And I want us to be across the table from each other when we do. And she was like, oh, okay. And she doesn't joke about not becoming a Grand Life Master anymore. I feel like I caught on, and there's an addictive personality thing going on too. There's a thing of repetitive, it's like, I really highly doubt I'm on the spectrum, because I just don't seem like somebody like that, do I? But they say that most people who take to bridge are somewhere on that spectrum, somewhere, even if it's all the way out in the outer edges, and they don't even look like it at all. But I know that when I do something, I do it repetitively, and I could do it until I die, and I wouldn't even notice that I was dead. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know about not noticing that you're dead, but I definitely get, that you really like it and that you do it. Playing 2 games a day at a club. I mean, I just haven't done that like hardly ever, like, I mean, you were really, sounds like you were really locked in. This goal really made it.
Yeah, and so I think it was sheer
meaningful for you, and
just unable to stop thing. I mean, now playing 2 games a day at a club sounds stupid, and going to a regional and playing 3 sessions a day, which is what Allison and I did. We were out of our minds at that Bermuda place. I mean, who does that? And you don't play that well when you do that, is what I've discovered. Like, we're going to do team knockouts at Hilton Head, and I'll do 2 session days, sure, but not 3. I mean, I know that I'd be letting my team down if I did, or my partner in that pairs game or whatever it is. That's just not logical. But I think that was the only way to do it in a short amount of time for me. That was really the only way to add up all those points.
Like, sometimes before the pandemic, I would go up to New York to play Money Bridge at the Regency Whist Club. And the room that we play in is on the 3rd floor, and there's stairs, or there's an elevator, but I would always take the stairs. And I know that, like, when I hit those stairs, I am so excited that I'm about to get to play bridge for the next couple hours.
I know that feeling.
And like, I just like float up those stairs.
Yeah.
Or like, even when I'm playing at the local bridge club, I mean, I love playing in NABCs. I love playing in regionals. Even if I have a game at the local bridge club, like, it's circled on my calendar, like, I'm fired up to play like in-person bridge. It just makes, it's something that, like, that my whole day gets sort of built around.
Yeah, I remember feeling that way, and it has some of the, it overlaps a little bit with what it feels like to fall in love. It's like this thing where you're literally walking on the clouds. You can't believe you get to do this.
How come you keep talking about this book, but you haven't written it?
Oh, well, I did take notes. I took notes the whole time I was doing the race and the Life Master Challenge. And I just went back and looked at those because you were asking me about, wanted to talk about, bridge, my background, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, I should really go back and look. And I've realized that I was really stupid back then. I mean, I really knew nothing. It's so amazing because there were very detailed notes about hands and things that happened and what I learned. And, it's all very earnest and, lots of funny stories too. But I've learned so much. And I remember people saying to me, 2 years from now, you're going to really be shocked. So that's weird. But I will tell you that I was really having a hard time. And I think you have a hard time with this with your podcast too, is who is my audience? Who is my readership?
Right.
Who am I writing? Like, I can write these articles for the ACBO and everybody understands them because they're bridge players, or for the Bulletin or whatever it is. And I can write the chapter at the end of this one book because I write it for anybody. It's not like you need to know bridge in order to understand this chapter. And so the question is, how much explaining should I be doing?
Right.
How much should I be bringing along somebody who doesn't play bridge at all? And I would test it with my articles. I'd give them to bridge players and non-bridge players. And the non-bridge players said, oh, this is terribly, terribly funny. I don't have any idea what's happening, but it's really fun to read. And that's what I was looking for. I was thinking, can I sustain that kind of writing for an entire book? So that's the polite way of saying that I am completely in writer's block and I can't stop playing bridge in order to write barely even an article. And, you know, I was so excited when the pandemic started and I had something sparked. And I wrote an article about what it was like to play online, which was really, really fun. And I thought, well,
which is where you introduced me to the concept of the hamburger.
The hamburger.
On Bridge Space. Yeah.
Yes, we want to explain the hamburger, John?
The three horizontal lines. In her article, Susan refers to this as the hamburger, which is actually not just a Susan. I think I've seen that beyond. But
I'm pretty sure I got it from Lisa, who got it from somebody else. Yeah, and I mean, it does look like a hamburger. It certainly helps when. Otherwise, when you say 3 lines, everybody's like, what 3 lines? What 3 lines? But if you say hamburger, for some reason, they can always find it. So anyway, then I thought, okay, so I'll just keep writing these short little articles. Instead of writing the story of how I became a life master, I have all those notes. I can write that book if I ever want to. But I think what I like doing is when something comes up at the table that I really think is fun to write about, I will write about it. And it's just a freestanding article. And then maybe if I get enough of those together, I can find a way to sort of pull them all into a book, an actual book. You know, I've seen people do that. So I know it's not that ridiculous to do. You know, the rest of the pandemic, I thought, well, this would be the time. You know, I could do it now. But then my mother got very ill and my husband's mother too. So we were doing a lot of hospice in the first part of the pandemic. And that sort of took all the wind out of my sails. And I just, you know, I will write when I want. I write when I feel like it. That's all.
So your mother died. Is your mother?
She died during the pandemic, not of COVID, but of being old.
Because you published The Habit, your first book, in 2011.
Right.
Okay, I didn't realize she was still. I mean, I've read the reviews. I have not. I feel like I sort of haven't really fully prepared for this episode because I when I read the reviews for The Habit last night, I was like, oh my God, I have to read this book.
I have a feeling you might like it. Yeah.
There's great reviews on Amazon of the book, and also your bio on Amazon. Did you write that? Do you know?
I think maybe it was a collaboration between me and the editor.
Because you talk about like how you met your husband and
I wrote that. Yeah, I did.
Decided quickly that you needed to marry him. Is his last name Morse too, or does he have a different last name?
His last name is Morse. Yeah, my last name is unintelligible. My maiden name. All right. Well, let's talk about Mextroth while you're forgetting what to interview me about. Okay, so
tell me about Mextroth.
Okay. So you know, by the point where I actually met Mextroth, I had brushed shoulders with some of the big names, and I will tell you that we have to get to the thing about the hand with you and Nigri, because I think that was actually the first time I sat down at a table with a pro, and I knew that's what I was doing. There were other times, like with Stevie Robinson in Reston, and he sat down with his partner, and I can't remember who his partner was, but he's so distinctive, you know. And that was when I first became aware that there were such a thing as a pro, was at that tournament with a bunch of people like Justin Law and so on were there, Sylvia Shee. And Stevie Robinson would sit there at the table and he would rough his partner's good leads and overtake them over and over and over again. And I'm just like, what is wrong with this guy? He's a really bad player. Doesn't he even realize that's good? I mean, how stupid is that? And then, of course, he murdered us. And I still don't really know what happened. You know, that was later I found out that he's like, I don't know what, 50,000 master points or something. I was just like, oh my God. But with Mextroth, what happened was John and I were playing on a team at the Cambridge
Yeah.
Regional in Maryland,
Yeah.
Chesapeake. Really fun. As fun as Hilton Head. It's nice to walk around outside in as Hilton Head. And I was late. I'm pretty sure it was a team. And I show up last. John pays the entry, and I show up barely at the last second. So I came rolling down. Everybody's there, sitting at the table. John, I sit down. I see John because he's tall, and I go find him. I go sit down. He's sort of looking at me. He's looking at me like, and I'm like, whatever. And then I kind of look, Rodwell,
Oh my gosh.
next draw. And I'm like, hi guys. What the fuck? So that was my first, and that was, by then I could tell a little bit what people were doing. I still don't really remember what happened, but they're so beautiful the way they play, and they're so relaxed about it. They're just so comfortable and happy about what they do, and it just doesn't even matter. It's just incredible. And so then he turned up. Somebody must have hired him to play in the Bermuda tournament one year.
Extra.
Yes, Mexstraw, and I think by himself, but I mean without Rodwell, but I don't really remember because I wasn't all that clever at things like that then. But we were on our way home, and we were in this airport, and one of my teammates that I had played with had a special pass to get into the first class type lounge in Bermuda Airport. And so we were in there, and it had a bunch of different rooms, and she said to me, Mexstraw's in the next room. And I'm like, oh. And and then it was like, I dare you, you're going to go get a picture with him. I dare you. And I'm like, I'll get you a picture with him. I dare you. And so we sort of went in there, and I don't remember. I think it might have been his wife, Sally, that we asked if we could have a picture with Meg Strauss. And she was so wonderful about it. That was incredibly nice of her. That was a really nice experience. He was really sweet. He answered questions. I think we got something else at the trophy party at Bermuda. It must have been the same regional, but it was the same thing. It was another teammate who wanted a picture with him, and there's this big banquet where they hand out the trophies, and he's there, and they dance, and it's kind of old school, lovely. You ever been to that tournament?
No, but I've seen pictures where people are wearing tuxedos.
Yeah, it's all dressy. So we were at that thing, and I think it might have been Allison who said, I need a picture with Meg Strauss. And so we went over to him and asked him to do it again. And I think I took the picture, or no, somebody else took the picture, because I was next to him. And I think Allison's on one side and I'm on the other. And Meg Strauss going, ooh, I like this. Because, Bridge is the only place where somebody like me can go and everybody thinks I'm sexy. It's like, yes, fabulous.
How do you know Allison? Quick story about Allison. In San Francisco at the NABC, right before the last NABC before the pandemic, Allison goes, you should have a podcast. And I go, that's funny, I have one.
She's like that. Allison is I don't want to call her an influencer because that's sort of a creepy thing to be, but she is a motivator, Allison. She usually is right too. She's the one that got me to invite that teacher to play with me on the cricket club team, and that turned out to be really. This is a partner that I really love playing with, Deb Crisfield.
Do you guys win the cricket club? Did you win the league?
We did not win the first few times, but we eventually did. And this year they promoted me to captain, and we won it again. And that, for me, that meant a lot because I had to bring in 2 brand new pairs because of the pandemic, all sorts of shifting around. And these girls were, from the team below. And first of all, they didn't want to leave the team below because they loved them all. But the whole team got annihilated by COVID. And so they moved up, and we still managed to win, probably because the other clubs also were losing all their players, so it's kind of an even playing field. But yeah, we won, and hopefully we'll keep winning. We have a very unusually deep team at this club, deep for Bridge. You would never know that Bridge was dying if you were watching what's going on. We have 55 newcomer never-evers this year coming into my partner Deb's class.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And Bill Bauer is the one who revived it. He does Audrey Grant, and he was their teacher there for many years, and then he retired and moved to Lancaster. But he was the one. He would teach these kids, or old women, Bridge, and then he would motivate them to try duplicate. And somehow the environment there, I hope that nobody would disagree with me that plays there, is warm and welcoming and makes you feel like you can do it without being too terrified. And some of those people, and just a few, like Allison and me and Deb, will venture out into this real world of bridge and do this thing.
So you were going to tell me about how you met Allison, and then I interrupt you. You told my story.
She knew people I knew. And when we were playing kitchen bridge with that group, the cheating group, they're not a really cheating group. They're just, what it is one of them is always saying, I know what's in your hand. You have the blah, 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 and blah. And you're like, no, keep that to yourself, Or she'd say, I did this because I have the blah, blah, blah. And you're like, do you want to win because we win or because you tell everybody what's in their hands? But at any rate, Allison would come and fill in for somebody when they were away because we all knew her. I think she plays golf with some of those ladies, and it's a small town, so we knew about her, and she was nice enough to come and do that. And that's pretty much how I met her, and that's how I got her
So
going.
you met her through bridge.
Basically, yes, I would say yes.
I'm impressed that you're making the finals of these national events on I've played a lot of my national events with pros. Like you're making it to the finals of the mixed pairs and the Swiss on, it sounds like, a amateur team of your peers.
It's all amateurs, yeah. There's a pair, the mixed pairs. John is at this point, he's a diamond life master. He's not a pro. The women's pairs was Lisa, and she's just like me, really, except that she's been playing a lot longer and she knows a lot more. But we're sort of got almost the same number of points. I think she moved ahead recently. And then when we do the team thing, it's usually John and his friend Gene, and they are a partnership from many years ago. Gene doesn't live in our area anymore, so he meets John at these nationals, and we do the last weekend of the nationals as a team. Yeah, I mean, they're better than us, but none of us, we're 10,000 between us at that Jacoby Open Swiss. That's what we had.
Have you ever hired a pro to play with them?
I haven't, and I've gone through quite a lot about that. At first, I was like, I think part of my challenge to myself is that I never hire somebody, that I need to be a purist that way. But right. I'm beginning to realize that, I've really learned a ton with these teacher partners of mine. And it is like having a pro without having to pay for them in a way, because these were all people with more experience than me who gave me everything they know and continue to do so. At one point, they all ganged up on me and they said, you're not playing any kind of defense system and we're going to make you do it. And Lisa made me sit with Robert Todd for lessons to learn defense online at the beginning of the pandemic, which was greatly helpful. And I've really made a lot of progress. But at some point, I sat down with, what's the name of Marty? He's a guy that,
Bergen?
No. He was in the Jacoby Open Swiss that year. He's from the Philadelphia area and he is a famous psychologist.
Oh, Seligman.
Marty Seligman. Yeah. And we talked in the airport on the way home, and I told him my whole story. And I said, so what do you think I should do? Do you think I ever could advance to the next level? Because he puts a lot of thought into this kind of stuff. And he said, yeah, I think you probably could. And I said, well, what do you think I should do? And he said, I think you need to hire a pro. You need to play with somebody at an expert level and work with them. So that was what made me receptive to working with Robert Todd and Lisa. And I guess I need to do that. I'm beginning to think I need to do that, because I can't expect my partners to keep giving me all this free advice all the time. If I really want to work at it, I've got to start reading, which I hate, and I've got to work with somebody like that. So I'm thinking about it.
What's the Migri hand?
God. Okay. All right. So
Is this when you met me?
This is when I met you. We knew about Migri. See, John and I were at Orlando with Allison and a partner of John's. So Allison and I were playing, and John and his friend Dave Cohan were playing, and we teamed up. And this was what year was Orlando, the national? It was,
I think, 16.
Yeah. So this was.
John prepares the scouting reports for the team. Is that correct?
Yes. He's got one of those. He's really good at names. He remembers every name and what hand he played and who he played it with and how many cards. Blah 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 blah. So he's always pointing out pros, and the only one that I could retain was Migri because of the hair.
Migri has red hair.
Yeah.
For those people who don't know.
She's just so wonderful looking. I mean, she really is. She's so great. She's so exotic looking and has such a wonderful name, Migri. And it's just like, oh. So I knew who Migri was and did another one of those late appearance things with Allison. We come down to the table and there's Migri. And we sit down and John, we're shuffling and stuff, and you're there across from Migri. And John goes walking by behind Migri because he just can't help himself. And he's got a piece of paper that he holds up behind Migri, and it says, OMG. And I'm like, I know. And I just was so embarrassed that he was doing this because you could see the OMG. And I'm like, okay. So I explained it to you. I said, this is because of Migri, and we're all here, and you're going to completely destroy us. And isn't this going to be fun? And I'm really excited to be playing against you and murdered by you. It would be really fun to be murdered. And so that's how we started. And I don't remember what number hand it was, but I want to make sure I get this right. Okay. It's an AX Swiss, right? We've got Marty and Larry are somewhere, and Bill Gates is somewhere else. And I haven't actually seen any of them. And John goes by with the OMG note. And I think your teammates were, John told me this, David Granger, Christina Lund Madsen, and Greg Hines.
Yeah.
So I think John and Dave were playing David Granger and Greg Hines, and we were playing you guys.
Okay.
And part of revealing that I am a baby bridge player at these tables with these experts is a strategy. And I'm not sure it's a good strategy or not, but I like to tell them that I'm new and that I'm really in over my head, because I'm hoping that what will happen is that they'll make some sloppy mistakes.
Right. You're playing a deeper game.
Well, maybe, although I think it may backfire. It may totally backfire. You really shouldn't reveal anything about yourself and just let them try to figure it out as they go along. Because if they think you're a lot better than them, sometimes they'll make other kinds of sloppy mistakes. That's all going on through my mind, right? And so we get dealt this hand, and I am west, and Migri is north, and she's the dealer. And you and Migri are vulnerable. And I have no spades. I have king, jack, 6, 7, 2 of hearts. I have the 2 of diamonds, and then I've got 7 card club suit. King, 10, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So it's another one of these wonderful, almost 4 loser hands, that I could open 2 clubs on if I was a real Dumbo. And for some reason, we didn't have to worry about that because I'm not dealer. Dealer is north, and we have to go all the way around to me, right?
Yes.
So, but I do know that you're supposed to come alive when you have a hand like this, right?
Yes.
6-5 or 7-5 is a come alive hand. Okay, so I'm waiting to see what happens. And Migri passes, and Allison bids a diamond. So I'm like, okay, we're going to game. We're going to game in one of my suits. It's either going to be the hearts or it's going to be the clubs. You overcall a spade.
Okay, unbelievable.
And so, these are the 2 suits that I don't have anything. I have a singleton diamond and I have 0 spades. I have 7 clubs and 5 hearts. So I overcall 2 hearts. Migri bids 2 spades. Allison passes. And I'm like, and so then you pass. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm just, so I bid 3 clubs. And Migri bids 3 spades. Allison passes again, and you bid 4 spades. And I'm like, God damn it. And so I bid 5 clubs, and everybody passes. And here I am playing against this famous person and whoever you are, and I'm in 5 clubs. I've got how many high card points? 7. Okay. Yeah. And Allison is like gone to sleep somewhere. All right. So what happens is the hands go down. Allison's got ace, jack, 8 of clubs. And she's got a doubleton heart. She's got her own long diamond suit, king, queen, 8, 9, 6, 3. And then she's got a little doubleton spade, jack 8, useless little doubles, but I've got no spades. So, of course, what happens is Migri leads a spade. And I'm looking at these clubs and I'm thinking, okay, ace, jack 8 on one side, king on the other, king 10, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 on the other side. That ace of clubs is my only entry, right? Because I only have 1 diamond. So I can't set up the diamonds without keeping that ace of clubs to have it. So that means the clubs have got to split 2-1. And the king of clubs or the queen of clubs has got to be in either fall or be in Migri's hand. I'm going to, even though I've got, 8 ever, 9 never, and I've got 10, I'm going to have to finesse to be sure to get back to the clubs later once I've set the diamonds up. This is my thinking. She leads the spade and I win it by trumping in my hand. And so what I do is I go straight for the clubs and I lead to the jack of clubs and it holds because Migri has the queen and you had a singleton. And so then I come back to my hand and now there's nothing but the ace of clubs on the board. Right, I'm back to my hand with the king of clubs. And it's time to set up the diamonds. Nobody's done anything with the hearts. It's time to set up the diamonds so that I can use those diamonds to get rid of my loser hearts, of which there are many. A king jack 5 times. Allison's got 9-5, so, you know. And so I'm in my hand, and you guys still haven't won any tricks. And I play my little 2 of diamonds towards the king, and I'm sort of taking a deep breath, and Migri does this thing. She's just sitting there, and she goes, "Have you seen her do that?" Where she sort of goes tisk, just, and she plays her ace of diamonds, wins the trick, and leads back a spade. And so I win it in hand again. And then I'm able to go over and get all of the, I can't remember if I got rid of every single heart, and I ended up with 6 clubs. I think that may have been what happened. And I've been thinking ever since about, why did Migri know she was going to have to come up with the ace of diamonds? Why did she know that? Why did she set up my diamonds like that? And I realized I gave her no choice, because if she didn't take it, it was going to be gone. And I was still going to be able to get back over there, right? Because I can still, rough another spade and get back over. I didn't even realize what I was doing, but she was like 10 steps ahead of me, and I swear she counted. And this is what I'm trying to learn how to do. I swear she knew when I roughed the first spade, so she knows I have no spades. I came in over your spade bit with hearts, so she knows I have 5 hearts, and there are 2 on the board. And therefore, I have 7 clubs. She's figured it all out, don't you think?
Right, yeah.
5 hearts. I play my 2 of diamonds. She knows it's a singleton. It has to be.
Right, yeah, that's true.
She knows my diamond is a singleton. I mean, I really...
Yeah, because I had shown out in clubs, so she knew you had 7 of them.
Yeah.
And you'd bid
exactly.
hearts.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm trying to learn how to do. That's what Migri did. And she was... When I made the hand and we actually beat you in the whole thingy, everybody else had beaten us already. We'd been terribly beaten by everybody. And that was just the one win that we had in a pretty wretched AX Swiss, with all these people who'd gotten kicked out of whatever you were all playing in upstairs. But that's my next thing. I mean, I've been working on defense for a long time. I've made some progress with that. And now I need to work on picturing everybody's hand at the table more than, it's getting easier and easier to do that. That's the killer thing, isn't it?
So what if Migri didn't win the ace of diamonds? Now I guess you play the king, and then you would play a heart.
Well, I would play the king, and I would rough it, and then I would, oh, God. Yeah, see, I think maybe she could have set me, because there was a lot of heart problems.
I think she could have made it harder.
Yeah.
If she knew the diamonds were breaking, it seems like she could have made it harder. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Migri. Happy birthday.
Well, maybe she'll have something to say about it. I actually I took a photograph of the hand. I'll email it to you, and you can send it to her. She can read or listen to this interview, and maybe she'll remember what she thought was going on.
I played against her in the USBF event, which I highly recommend. They did this online J-Law 5, 3 days. I would highly recommend you're playing in it. 3 days, 5 matches a day, 10 boards. Played the nickel team, played a bunch of really good teams. Unfortunately, we didn't do as well as I would have liked. But
when is that?
I don't know when the next one is. The one was 2 weeks ago that we played in, and but the reason I'm bringing this up is because I played against Migri and we beat her, which was very satisfying.
Well, she's so incredible. I mean, she really is incredible, isn't she?
I mean, yeah, she is. I played my first world championship with her.
Yeah, she was very nice to us.
She's introduced me to so many of her friends that have become my friends. So she was always very generous about that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something inclusive about her. She was gracious and had a great sense of humor about me pulling this off against you guys.
She does have a great sense of humor. We had this thing where we had a whole bunch of like code language that we would joke about, like Winnie the Pooh. There's this quote that Winnie the Pooh would say where he goes, "I think I'm going down."
Oh.
And so she would be declaring, and she would just break out into Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the. Sort of under her breath, but where I could see it, just like where I'm the dummy,
Yeah.
Or she is a very funny woman, So we're debuting, Susan. We're debuting a new segment here on the show. It is called the Cliff Don segment. And Cliff Don is I've not met Cliff. he is the father of Josh Dunn, who is a professional player. And Josh told me in Austin, I ran into him at breakfast one day. Josh told me that whenever his name is mentioned on the show, his dad sends him a copy of whatever was said because from the transcript.
All right, so
now we're making this a permanent segment on the show. Josh Dunn, do you anything?
nothing.
I know that
I
know
probably
that you
have
don't-
played against him. I just can't remember his name. I'm trying to. I should look at what his picture looks like and see if I know because
So we have a low bar now for the Cliff Don segment because we're starting from we don't really know who Josh is. Anyway, Cliff, there you have it. Excited to have you as a regular listener. We really appreciate your support, and I hope you're not underwhelmed by Susan's response.
yeah. Don't take it personally. I can barely remember my own name.
I had sent Susan an email about this before the show.
Well, you
and
can't. I can't conjure up a game I played against him if I don't remember playing against him. But I bet I have. Do you think I have? He probably remembers. Maybe not.
We'll find out. We'll have to have Cliff ask Josh.
Right.
This is one of many fact-finding missions we have for our listeners. Susan and I had a very dynamic email exchange with lots of information about possible stories to tell. And Susan has some questions for me, which I'm very excited about, which we're going to get to. But one of the questions that Susan had was, I didn't know this, Benito Garazzo is missing a finger.
Yeah, a half of a finger.
He's missing half a finger. And Susan said, how did he lose it?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. This is in the email. Maybe we'll make a post about this on Bridge Winners. If you know how Benito, if it's suitable to find out how he lost that finger. Another question of Susan's, somebody brings their own toilet seat to out-of-town tournaments.
Or did, at least once, before I started playing.
Did.
This was from Deb. She was at a out-of-town tournament.
So Deb told you that?
Yeah, she saw the person waiting with their luggage in the hotel line, and they had a toilet seat with their luggage.
That, if somebody carries their own toilet seat, that's next level.
Yeah. You want me to ask you my questions that I have for you?
Yes, absolutely, please. I can't wait.
Why do you play bridge, John McAllister?
I just think I love the process of the mental activity of what it takes to play bridge. I love the looking deeply into what's been said and what's been played and keeping track of what's been played and making inferences based on what people do. I love the partnership dynamic and the opportunity, to improve the improvement cycle. I feel like I haven't reached my full potential at bridge, and I think I can get better. The more I focus, the better I am, and I enjoy that process. Nobody's putting that on a billboard, that answer.
Oh, I feel the same way. That is. So were you good in school? Were you a math person in school?
Yes. I studied math. Like I got a 700 on my math SAT, and I got less on verbal, and I was good at math I didn't really take any math classes in college because by the time I got to college, I was sort of checked out on being a student. And it was really hard to do math classes in college with that mindset.
Right. You can get behind and then you're cooked.
I remember I took some prerequisites for the commerce school undergraduate. And I remember I was in a statistics class. There were 60 people in it. And somehow the professor knew my name and called on me. And I was just like, sitting in the back row.
Oh, gosh.
And was like, how the hell do you know my name?
Statistics is something I wish I had for bridge. Never got it. And I shun it. I just want to go to sleep when I start trying to think about it. I know that's another thing I need to focus on, is calculating those odds. Okay, so your next question is, do you learn best reading about bridge or at the table or some other way?
I think there's a combination, I think, say one of my flaws as a bridge player is that I'm lazy at the table. And so I don't work things out at the table as much as I could if I were more determined. And so I have to learn things. It helps to do things through books away from the table. Like I read Clyde Love's book on squeezes pretty close.
Is that a really good one?
And that's really helped me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've only done, there was one time at the table where I was playing, I was declarer and John was my partner, and I knew that some guy had the something or other, and I was like, oh. And I found myself doing something and, getting him to play that card and then discarding the one that I didn't need anymore when he played it, guy on my right. And John afterwards said, oh, you did a squeeze. And I'm like, oh, that's what a squeeze is. I didn't know. It's like, that's a really hard thing can you like start a hand and say, I'm going to be squeezing at the end of this hand, when the first card is played?
It's possible, yeah.
But it's really more that something that just kind of comes up once you figure out where everything is.
Yeah, it definitely is possible that like on a hand, like say you're in 6-no trump and you have like 11 winners and you see that you can play for like a suit to break 3-3, or so maybe you'll duck the first trick just kind of like out of rote, so now the count is rectified. It happens. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, well, I need to read up on how to squeeze, because for me it really just happens by, it's like I suddenly realize it and then I do it.
That happens too, for sure.
All right, so your next question is, what is your favorite convention?
We're going to, by the way, for the audience, Susan and I are going to play together in a speedball for the first time, and Susan has sent me a convention card, and I have one proposed convention modification.
Aha, what is that?
Well, I think two-way new minor forcing is a lot better than regular new.
Okay, two-way new minor forcing. Oh yeah, oh God, I haven't learned that yet, but I'm up for it. I'll learn it.
Like what I like about two-way new minor forcing, when I bid if it goes something, one no. Now if I bid two diamonds, we're absolutely 100% forced to game.
And did you open, I opened a
Even
club?
if you opened a diamond.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you
right, that's
opened a
how
diamond,
it is.
I bid a heart, you bid one no, now I bid two diamonds, 100% forcing the game.
So diamonds is the operative trigger for two-way new minor forcing.
Yeah, and
then what am I supposed to do?
So then you're supposed to tell me if you have 3 hearts or 4 spades.
And I'll bid one or the other of them depending on that?
If you have like 5 diamonds maybe, and neither of 3 hearts or 4 spades, you would bid 3 diamonds.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the same thing. It's just the difference is that we're working on both majors. Even if the suit that's been bid is hearts, we're gonna do spades too. They're included, right?
I would be uncomfortable. Like, let's say, for example, that I had a slam try with spades in this potential auction, and it goes 1 diamond.
By me.
Yeah. I bid 1 heart. And I like to not bid 1 no trump if I'm 4-4. Like, I like to show an unbalanced. I like to show unbalanced hand if I bid 1 spade.
Oh, really? And I always bid 1 spade, but that's fine.
So then,
but if you play two-way, you can't bid the spade yet. Is that right?
Well, no, you can. But I mean, if you're gonna, I just like limiting my hand first. When I bid 1 spade, I have a much wider range. I could have like 11 to 17. But when I bid 1 no, I know that my partner now knows that I have 11 or 12 to 14, and I have, ostensibly two cards in every suit, maybe 5 diamonds, maybe 4, not 4 hearts.
And I might have 4 spades, but I'm not telling you about them yet, because I want you to know that I'm balanced.
So I think that's a really good convention.
Yeah, well, let's put it into action and see if it comes up and if it actually ends up working well for us. That might be interesting.
I'll give you another example. Let's say you open a diamond and I bid 1 spade and you bid 1 no.
Okay.
And I have 4 hearts and 5 spades, and I have a hand that's interested in bidding a slam.
Yeah.
If I bid 2, if we're playing one-way new minor forcing, let's say I bid 2 clubs, forcing for 1 round. So now you bid 2 hearts because you have 4. So now you bid 2 hearts. Now, how do I, playing regular new minor forcing, show a slam try with hearts? Because if we're playing two-way, 1 diamond, 1 spade, 1 no, you bid 2 diamonds, I bid 2 diamonds, 100% game forcing. Now you bid your 4 hearts, 2 hearts. Now I can bid 3 hearts and I know you're not going to pass. Like now we can have like a intelligent auction,
Starting at a nice low level.
queue bidding at the 3 level.
So in other words, it's an easier way to get to slam. It's mostly about finding a way to get to slam or not.
This example, yes, but I think I just like that I know that we're forced to game. Because if you want to invite, you have to bid 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, and then your next bid shows what your invitation is about. I just like I've played one-way new minor recently with a friend, and it didn't negatively impact us at all. But I just don't know what's forcing after a one-way new minor call. So that's what scares me about that.
Yes, I can see that. Okay,
All
let's
right.
do it. And what's your least favorite convention?
I really hate playing 2 diamonds over 1 no trump as both majors.
Oh, wow. God, I don't even know that one. That sounds awful.
Capoletti. Like if they open 1 no and you bid.
Oh, you mean interfering no trump and having 2 diamonds be
Yes.
both majors? Oh, why?
Because if I bid 2 clubs for both majors, now if I have equal length in the majors, I can bid 2 diamonds and then you can bid your longer major.
So in other words, they've opened 1 no trump. You have both majors. You bid 2 clubs, which is your way of showing both majors. All right. And then I meant to bid my longer major. And why is 2 diamonds not the same thing?
They open 1 no trump. I bid 2 clubs showing both majors. You have 3 hearts and 3 spades.
Yes.
You bid 2 diamonds. You say bid your longer
Oh,
major.
I bid the 2 diamonds.
Yeah.
And tell you to bid your longer major.
Right.
Because you might be 5-4.
If it goes 1 no trump, 2 diamonds, both majors, now you have to guess.
Or yes, in other words, it's bid your favorite major.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I play modified Capoletti is it's the first defense against no trump I ever learned. And so I basically bullied all of my partners into playing it back when I was like, I can't learn 10 different ways of doing this. There were a lot of people that wanted me to play Meckwell, but nobody could make an argument for anything besides Meckwell over modified Capoletti. And we have a local pro around here, and everybody's always asking him, what's the best defense against no trump? And he basically says, they're all the same, pretty much. That's why there's so many of them. So it is a matter of taste, don't you think?
Sure. I don't like Meckwell either, though.
Oh, and I don't even know if I like it or not. I haven't tried to play it. I've, just been told what it is and thought, fine, I can't see why this is going to work better than what I've got. But I see that you have a way of, it again, just like with 2-way new minor forcing, you're keeping the bidding level low and you're getting to the right contract.
Yes.
That's a good argument for it. Oh, well, we did them all except for me trying to get you to make a movie of the card turner.
So the Card Turner is a novel about bridge written by Louis Sacker.
Who wrote Holes.
There's a bridge player who has bought the right to make that, and
Oh, he did.
And I think the last time it's been a while since I talked to him, but he was Louis Sacker was writing a treatment, he was going to potentially write the screenplay.
It'd be a great movie. Really would be.
I cried multiple times reading that book.
It is a wonderful book. Really a wonderful story. Everybody loves it. And it is one of those things that people who don't play bridge would still love it. In the same way that I loved The Queen's Gambit and I don't play chess.
Right. Which you also said in your question that you wrote to me that I was a little sore about the success of The Queen's Gambit.
Well, there was something that you said in one of your interviews about how people were always talking about how amazing it was that The Queen's Gambit, really blah, 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 blah. And that's what you wanted your wonderful documentary to do for bridge. And I can really feel it, the passion that you have for the game and all of this effort that you put into this fabulous little gem of a documentary with these kids. It really is good, especially since you re-edited it.
Thank you.
But it doesn't have the exotic romance that, it just can't. It's not fiction. It's a documentary. It's a totally different animal. And if you want to have something that has that kind of level of attention, you would need to cast the cutest teenager boy and the cutest teenager girl and, some really fabulous, British Shakespeare guy to play this old blind guy. And it just, and the visuals and there's ghosts. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic, sexy way of presenting bridge that you just can't do in a documentary of your kind.
I do think the Queen's Gambit gives me hope, though, for the potential of even our film at a much, like the scale of the Queen's Gambit reach would be unbelievable for us. But I think like our goal is to have the film on public television later this year. So I think if the film gets on public television and millions of people watch it, that it's going to have a meaningful impact on the future of Britain.
I think you're right. I think it could, and every little bit helps, and you really could do that. And I remember one last thing that I wanted to tell you, and that was that I know what I have in common with Jeff Mextroth because of all the podcast episodes of yours that I listened to. And that is because I started from ones where you were not making as much of an effort to try to include people, readers, listeners like me, who often don't know what you're talking about with these top level players. You were talking to some top level guy about playing this game, and I'm like, all right, first of all, I have no idea what you've been talking about this whole time, but now you're going to talk about some game I've never heard of called Hool, and I'm like, what the heck is that? I'm like, I'm never going to get anywhere with this game because I don't even know what they're talking that. I mean, whatever that is, and it kept coming up with a bunch of different people how you're all sort of playing Hool, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm having a hard enough time learning this game. I'm not going to try to learn some other game. And then you get Jeff Mextroth on, and he's never heard of it either. And I'm like, finally! And so I finally find out what the game is because you have to explain it to Jeff Mextroth. So I was like, thank you, Jeff. There you go. And maybe I'm not quite as stupid as I thought I was.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see you in Hilton Head.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate all the thought and time you put into this. And I'm excited to be your.
Same here. Back at you. Keep it up.
All right. And thank your bridge partner, too, for postponing.
Oh, we're going to play a speedball now. Thanks, John.
You're the best. Thanks for listening. Questions, comments, or concerns, please email me, john@thesettingtrick.com, and hope to see you at the table soon.